Minsu started as the scared player everyone felt sorry for in Squid Game Season 3, but once he got his hands on those pills, he transformed into one of the most unpredictable and dangerous contestants we've ever seen. And in this video, we're going over every moment Minsu went completely psycho, starting with the moment that changed everything.
In Season 3, Episode 2, when Minsu first appeared during Hide and Seek, he was shaking like a leaf. The poor guy was barely able to look anyone in the eye, let alone survive the games any longer. But everything changed when he spotted Namgoo's stash of leftover pills which he took from Thanos. The hide-and-seek game was complete chaos. Players running for their lives, trying to survive until time ran out. Minsu was cowering behind some crates when he saw Namgoo drop something. Those colorful pills scattered across the floor, and Minsu's eyes locked onto them like a starving man seeing food. Now, any normal person would think twice about taking mystery drugs in a death game. But Minsu? He didn't just take one or two. He grabbed them and swallowed them dry. The transformation was near instant. Suddenly, the scared little mouse became something else entirely. The drugs hit different than they did with Thanos. Where Thanos got confident and reckless, Minsu became paranoid and unpredictable. One second he'd be laughing at nothing, the next he'd be staring at other players like they were demons. The other contestants started noticing too. They'd give him space, whisper about how he'd changed. But Minsu didn't care. He was hooked and he needed more. But stealing pills was just the beginning of Minsu's descent into madness. Before the pills ever touched his lips, Minsu was already broken. Back in Season 2's dormitory massacre, he'd hidden above the bunks while the O and X teams tore each other apart. That's when he saw Namgoo attack Sammy with a fork. Sammy wasn't just another player. She was the only one who'd shown Minsu real kindness, who'd made him feel like he mattered. So when Namgoo went after her, Minsu tried to help. He threw a bottle at Namgoo's head. He missed. What happened next would haunt him forever. Minsu could only watch, paralyzed by fear, as Namgoo overpowered Semi right beneath him. She died while he gripped the bunk rails, too terrified to move, too weak to save the one person who'd cared about him. This wasn't abandonment. This was failure. And that failure ate at Minsu's mind long before the drugs did. By Season 3, Sami's ghost lived in his head. Every hallucination, every drug-induced vision, she was there.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sammy.
Let's go.
Sometimes forgiving him, sometimes blaming him, always reminding him of what a coward he'd been. The pills didn't make Minsu a monster. They just gave his guilt a chemical boost. The scared kid who'd failed to save his friend was already gone, replaced by someone drowning in self-hatred, and looking for any escape he could find. If you thought living with that kind of guilt was bad, wait until you see what Minsu did when the drugs took over completely. Back in the hide-and-seek game, after finding and getting hooked on the pills in a matter of minutes, Minsu's brain was fried from the drugs already. When he saw Seonyo, he didn't see the shaman who'd helped players. He saw something else, Semi and Namgoo. The confrontation was brutal. Seonyo tried to reason with him before starting to insult Minsu, but Minsu was beyond reasoning. He lunged at her with his knife, screaming incoherently about whatever. She fought back, but Minsu had the strength of madness on his side. When it was over, Minsu stood there covered in blood, still mumbling to himself. Other players who witnessed it said he didn't even seem to realize what he'd done. He just wiped his knife clean and kept moving, looking for his next victim, or his next pill. The other contestants started calling him the junkie psycho after that. They'd form alliances specifically to avoid him. Even the guards seemed unsettled by his behavior. But Minsu's mental state was only getting worse. By now, Minsu had completely lost control, and his next move proved it. Episode 5 brought in another voting round. The survivors could choose to continue the games or end them. Most people vote based on strategy. Do they have enough money? Can they survive another round? But Minsu was operating on a completely different wavelength. He showed up to the voting looking like death itself. Sunken eyes, trembling hands, muttering to himself constantly. The withdrawal was hitting hard, and he'd run out of pills. Other players kept their distance, as he shuffled to the voting machine. Everyone expected him to vote to continue. After all, psychos like him seemed to thrive in the chaos. But Minsu did something nobody saw coming. He slammed his hand on the button to end the game. The room went silent. Players on both sides stared in disbelief. Why would someone who'd shown such brutal survival instincts suddenly vote to end it all? The answer was simple. Min-Soo wasn't thinking rationally anymore. His drug-addled brain couldn't process consequences. He just wanted out, even if it meant his own death. The other players erupted in anger. Some tried to grab him, shake some sense into him. But Min-Soo just laughed. Not a normal laugh, the kind of laugh that makes your skin crawl. He kept saying the same thing over and over. None of this is real anyway. His vote ended up being crucial. It pushed the scales towards continuing the game, but barely. The players who wanted to leave saw him as a liability. The ones who wanted to stay saw him as a wild card who could ruin everything. Everyone agreed on one thing. Min-Soo had to go. But Min-Soo's final moments would be his most insane yet. The Sky game in Episode 6 was designed to be simple. Players on elevated pillars had to eliminate each other until only a few remained. But for Min-Soo, nothing was simple anymore. He'd found one last pill, hidden in Thanos' cross necklace that someone had kept as a trophy. Min-Soo didn't hesitate. He swallowed that pill like it was salvation itself, but this time the high hit different. Maybe it was stronger. Maybe his brain was already too damaged. But Min-Soo started seeing things that weren't there. He saw Thanos hanging off the pillar he was on, even though Thanos had been dead since Season 2. He saw Namgyu climbing up from below, her face twisted in revenge. He saw shadows moving, voices whispering, the whole world tilting and spinning. The other players watched in horror and fascination as Min-Soo swung at empty air, screaming at ghosts only he could see. He'd dodge attacks that didn't exist, counterattack opponents who weren't there. At one point, he nearly walked off his own pillar, trying to chase a hallucination. Myung-gi was on a nearby pillar, watching this madness unfold. He'd survived this long by being smart, calculating. And he calculated that Min-Soo was too dangerous and unpredictable to leave alive. When Min-Soo was distracted by another hallucination, screaming at the sky about the Watchers, Myung-gi made his move. One push was all it took. Min-Soo was so disconnected from reality that he didn't even try to catch himself. He fell backward off the pillar, still reaching for something invisible in the air. Some players said he was smiling as he fell, others said he was crying. Maybe it was both. The impact was final. Min-Soo's journey from timid contestant to drug-addled psycho was over. But the damage he'd done, to himself and others, left a mark on everyone who witnessed, because in the end it wasn't the games that killed Min-Soo. It was Min-Soo who killed Min-Soo. And that might be the most psycho thing about him of all. If you enjoyed this video, you'll love my video about every time Thanos was a psycho.